Well, good morning, History 2145, and welcome to week 12. So this week, it's called Globalization, Its Discontents. But in trying to tell the story of globalization and the discontents that exist within it, we obviously have to talk about the 1990s. And so if you remember your economic history or your macroeconomics, right, globalization is a phenomenon of basically global interconnectedness in the economy, spurred by kind of the technological and information revolution, really from like the 1960s, 70s, and 80s onward. Um, Obviously culminating with the internet and cellular communication, and really just right the kind of globalization of the economy, right, where it's not just commodities that are being traded, between Asia and the West, or between the West and the rest of the world. It's a revolution of ideas, of products, whether it's Mickey Mouse, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, what have you. It's also an era where a new global culture kind of evolves, right? Rather than being kind of isolated communities, right? We become a community where our pop culture, where our intellectual property, where our thoughts are widely distributed across the globe during this period. Okay. Obviously, by the 1990s, right, this is fueled enormously, right, by the evolution in our information chain, right, with satellite communication, later the internet, and then obviously the rise of cell phones. Here at home, right, we're going to focus on, right, kind of the end of that decade of, Republican control of the White House with the rise of this Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton to the Democratic Party representing the new kind of Democrat, right, kind of a politically moderate, influenced by neoliberal ideas, and really trying to work towards some type of domestic reform that kind of shifts, right, some of the social safety net in a way, right, that adds a little bit of accountability to those receiving those benefits. However, right, the challenge with, say, healthcare reform, for example, is the increased politicalization and polarization between the White House and Congress in the 1990s, which is obviously exacerbated, right, by the 24-hour news cycle and later the internet. And of course, Clinton's own political choices and scandals. And so when we look at the foreign, right, as the sole superpower in this new world order, right, the Clinton administration was very wary of committing troops. And in so doing, right, we often used strategic missiles. We would use our allies through NATO, and say in Kosovo, or, tried to use kind of diplomacy as our tool abroad. And so really when we look at the 1990s, it's a decade of rapid transformation that really lays the groundwork for where we are today. So with that said, let's take a look here at the syllabus. So this week you've got reading on chapter 31.4, discussion 11, quiz 11, and then make sure you are keeping on track of that study guide and getting that done. As always, if you have any questions, let me know.